right, guys, welcome back to On the Table Podcast. On the Table Podcast was inspired by conversations I've had with clients while on the table at Built Bodyworks. We have talked about life, relationships, successes, failures, and I've been inspired by them, and I wanted a platform to be able to have them share their stories with you. That being said, we've got Vini on the podcast today. Thanks for being here, bro.
Dude, appreciate having me.
Vini is also a videographer, but Vini and I go back, 4 or 5 years ago.
Gosh, dude, it has been that long.
I know.
Huh? Crazy.
Yeah. My favorite thing so far about meeting and becoming friends with Vini is just how real and authentic he is. And you and I have had some pretty deep, solid conversations, and you've definitely been one who has gotten me outside of my little thinking box. Mm-hmm. Based on your own stories, and I just really appreciate you, man. Thanks for inspiring me.
Dude, appreciate you, bro.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, it's exciting.
Well, let's go back a little bit, honestly. I remember when you and I first met, I was kind of thinking about starting a business, jumping out on my own. You were kind of thinking about jumping out on your own, but also into something more so that you loved or you were passionate about, working more for like a corporate kind of office, right?
Yeah.
What was kind of a turning point for you to finally say, I'm ready to go do something that I love, you know?
Dude, I've been on that roller coaster of like wanting to do something. I've always had that, like growing up, wanting to venture out, something kind of outside the norm.
Yeah.
And that job for the first time, because it was in like supplement manufacturing.
That's right.
It was in the environment that I liked with fitness.
Yep.
But I enjoyed it. But after some time, I just kind of like, no, this is not it. I want to do something else.
Cool.
And I was around a lot of like fitness influencers at the time.
Yep.
And that's when I was like, okay, I kind of want to try that out for myself. So I picked up a camera and was just doing it for fun.
For you?
Yep. Just for myself. Like nothing as far as offered, just for myself. Had fun. And then I started getting into like a couple people wanting content, a couple of people like, I'm even just creating it just for fun, like at the gym, and people seeing it and like wanting to pay for that. And that's when it like kind of sparked that. So I was actually even reading Think and Grow Rich. And during that book, that's when it like that flip switched. And I was like, well, I'm not really happy where I'm at here. I'm enjoying doing this. Maybe I can make something out of it. And that's kind of like what launched like the Fuego Film brand.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think one of my favorite things, this is probably one of my favorite subjects ever, because it messes with your head. Especially, I mean, this kid barely passed high school. And so ever thinking that I would ever have a business, much less be successful or good at it, there's a lot of mental blockages, and I think our own fears and limitations. But I love that what I'm hearing from people nowadays who want to do something but don't is because they maybe don't think that they're credible or they don't have experience. And all you did was just say, I'm going to try this. And then look at what it turns into. It's like you make the jump to try something, and then people reinforce it by saying, hey, I want a part of that. I want you to do this for me. And you're like, oh, I'm actually kind of good at this thing. And this was the thing that I was scared to pursue.
Yeah.
You know? So I love that. I love that you got past that and kind of jumped into it. What has been one of the biggest things for inspiring you to continue down that road? I feel like every time we jump out into something, there's obviously bumps in the road, and we're trying to figure out what exactly we want to do. What's been the biggest inspiration for you to continue doing what you love in videography?
Dude, even tying back a little bit into that, like there was a scarcity for me jumping in. Mm-hmm. So right around when I decided to make like the leap, I'm like, okay, I finally got a client that I can go full time in.
Yep.
This was literally Christmas break, December of 2020.
Ooh, so still a little COVID-y.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like lockdowns, all this stuff. Yeah. So there's a lot of uncertainty in the air. So at that time, I'm like, okay, I finally have this opportunity. There's also potential talk of like in a month or two, another lockdowns and all that stuff. I had a secure position in that company, in a good position, and I just watched a bunch of marketing people get let go. So it's like this is a scarcity thing. Like it was exciting, but there was a lot of like uncertainty. I was pretty like nervous. I was pretty scared. I'm not gonna lie. So going through that, I sat there and I was like, okay, I have this opportunity. if I don't take this right now, I'm like, I'm always going to wonder what if it's like, and if I try it and something hits the fan, I'll figure it out. So I was like, I at least got to try. So it was in that moment, it was like, dude, I was so nervous. Like even like talking to my boss, like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And you went through that.
I've gone through
We had that conversation with your situation.
Yep.
And it was a lot of uncertainty, but it was just kind of branching out, doing my own thing. And just once I did that, and I had, dude, in the first couple of months, I had like such a like paradigm shift in my mental of like potentiality, possibilities. I think I was just in an environment that wasn't
Didn't
serving
allow for
me.
it. Yeah.
Right. So then I just think I was in like a lower state of mind as far as just not as positive. So like going out, doing my own thing just expanded like that possibilities and like all that. So then I started just thinking bigger. I started getting just better mental. So I think I got pretty excited about that, and that's what kept me going. But dude, don't get me wrong, like you know how, I mean, business it's a roller coaster.
It is.
There's there's the good times, but there's the really low times too. Yep. And in those situations, like I had plenty of moments I wanted to quit. So many moments I wanted to quit. And then it's like, I just keep pushing through. Then I'm like, why was I even thinking that? Man. I'm like, I'm glad I'm going through it. Like, I'm glad I'm still going, like pushing through. But like overall, it's definitely a roller coaster, but there's just something about that of chasing what you enjoy, what is fulfilling and what fills your soul, right? That is just like, that's why you want to keep going.
Dude, I love that so much. I think you're right. There's nothing else that's going to fill that space till you figure it out for yourself. I think one of my favorite points you just hit on too is like, I think the number one common thing I see in successful people is that they want to go try something and they do it knowing that if I fail or if it doesn't work out, oh well.
Yeah.
But that's a scary thought for most people. I think that's the biggest limiting factor is, well, what if this doesn't work out? It's like, try something else. You know, like I don't know how you get past that point. Yeah. But I don't know. And then you just have to put yourself, I think, in that environment. Like you said, you didn't necessarily have it at the time, but jumping into it reinforces where to go from there. So that's freaking cool, man. And then you mentioned a little bit on like quitting. I can relate to that. And it's interesting. I want to touch up on this because I feel like you can have a passion, and passion will always carry things forward. I truly believe that. But even your passions get to a point where you're like, man, do I still want to do this?
Yep.
And maybe you already kind of mentioned this, but like, I don't know. When does it get to a point where you're like, or let me back that up. How do you get past that point of pushing through? Because I feel like when I do, and this has been reaffirmed to me several times, and I could talk on this in specifics, but when you're about to be like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, I'm exhausted, I want to try something new, something else enters, and you're like, nope, I'm right on this, but this is where I need to be. Has that happened with you?
Oh, absolutely. So many times. And it's been one of those things that, dude, I've been really blessed to work with like really amazing individuals and been in rooms with like well-known people. Yep. And I've been really lucky to have those opportunities. But one of the things that was really interesting, and I've had this happen probably like twice now, people at high levels, you know, making 8 figures, 9 figures businesses. And they're to the point where like, there's moments I don't want to do this. There's moments that I don't know, like they have like that limiting belief on themselves. So it's like, dude, someone out there is like way farther in business than I am. And they have that. Like even recently, I just filmed for an event, and the guy who his event through an event, like 3,000 like people, vendors, all this big stuff. Jordan Peterson was speaking there, like big event.
I saw you post about that.
And he was the one that he was like, I got to a point because he had like a event right before it, a little like VIP event, but then it got to a point where like the day of coming to the event, he's like, I didn't want to get out of bed. He's like, I'm like, I kind of was curious of like, what happens if I just didn't show up?
Interesting.
And I'm like, dude, someone at that
his
level,
event,
his own event,
wow,
people showing up, and he's like, but I think at all levels you run through that. And even recently, like I've had those moments where I wanted to quit. I had something like recently happen, bad business deal went down. And it just like, I legit was like ready to quit. I was ready to like throw my, like, you know what, I'm done. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Maybe I'll switch it up. I'm like even considering different career paths. And then all of a sudden, opportunity comes right as I'm like getting ready to quit.
It's happening to me, man.
Opportunity presents itself. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, no, I want to be doing this.
I'm here. Yeah.
So, I mean, even like coming up, thinking about my story too has been really helpful. So like when you reached out to me and was like, oh, okay, here's, I want you to think about
Some
your
ideas,
stories.
yeah.
Some ideas. I was like, holy crap. I've seen how far I've come. There's the moments that I was like in that job, not happy, like just praying for opportunities that I'm living today.
Yeah.
And I sometimes don't even recognize it when I'm in it.
Yep.
And it's those moments, like it is a roller coaster, but it's one of those things you just got to roll with the punches, man. And then keep remembering like why you started, thinking back of like how far you've come. And I think those are really helps you like drive something in internal just to keep pushing, because those tough times aren't here to stay.
Never is. And they'll always come. And I think it's important to note that and be okay with it. I remember when I first jumped out into my business, the first part of it all was like, man, I don't know if this is sustainable. I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep doing this. And I don't know. I think you just have to learn that it's part of it and you continually work past it. I think one of the big things I heard Ed Milet say one time that I've faced, and I'm sure I hope other people face too. I'm not unfamiliar in this. It was imposter syndrome. And I didn't even really know what that was until he said the word. And I was like, I think I kind of can get the context, but I'm going to look it up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I felt that like 30 times in my career, where you just don't feel like you're good enough. I don't know, you feel like you're fake, or you're not putting out there what you need to do, but deep down, you know you are. And there's this battle. Has that ever come with you?
Oh, 100%. And it's funny that you bring that up, because I've heard that situation up too with Ed Milet.
Yeah.
And dude, I run into that. It's like, I do a lot of studying. I like see the content that's working. I'm like brushing up on my skills, and it's like things that I'm delivering to clients. But then it's like, when it gets to a point where I have to put a camera in my face and I want to do the talking, I want to provide back and give value. Those start coming to my head. I'm like, oh shoot, like, who am I to say this? Oh, Dude. Then I'm like, well, I'm talking to a client, doesn't cross my head, but the moment I have to like put it out on social media,
it out there,
I'm like, dude, I don't know, like judgment, all this stuff just starts coming in. And it's like, wait a minute, like I've like done this studying and stuff like this. And it's like, this is the information that I've gotten and it has helped me. And one of the things that I came across, what's his name? Alex Hermanzi. I don't know if you heard of him.
Yeah.
So he talks about switching up how you deliver content versus of like, so you would be like, this is my experience and this is how it helped me, versus of like how you should. Because I think when you start delivering those like, oh, you should do this, like, you know what I mean? You're like,
totally.
Dude, who are you to tell me what to do, right? So it was one of those things that I'm like, okay, that has helped me even deliver my like, kind of get around that judgment, because it's like, it is a scary thing to put yourself out there. So that has helped me, where I'm like, okay, this is just my experience. I'm sharing this. It has helped me. Like take what you want from it, but it's just my experience.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's huge. At the end of the day, that's what you have. Judgments or not, you have experience, you know? I don't know. What would you say has gotten you past some of the, because we all go through it. I think that this is super common, but posting something and being worried about how it comes across, or, oh shoot, I should have added this in, or like, how do you just like put it out there and then just, because I know everybody faces that.
100%. And I think this goes back to like being able to work with some individuals at higher levels than I've been.
Yeah.
And they go through that. Like, and that's even the thing. For me, it's like, okay, everybody goes through it. Doesn't matter if you're curing cancer. Like, you can be doing the most positive thing. Someone is going to talk shit.
Yeah.
So it's just like, at this point, whatever is true to me and my experience, I'm going to share that. If someone doesn't like it, so what?
Right.
Especially in like today and age, everybody is getting so offensive over things.
I know.
So it's just like, you know what? This is my experience. I'm going to say it. If you don't like it, unfollow me. You don't have to sit there and follow me. You don't have to sit there and torture yourself through like, if that doesn't resonate with you,
Yeah.
unfollow me. I don't care. At that point, it's like, I think people just get too worried of what people are going to say. And I just gotten to the point where like seeing that at all levels, I'm like, okay, it happens no matter what. Someone will always do that, talk shit, judge, whatever. I'm just like, I'm just going to do me, because at the end of the day, like when you're carrying that judgment constantly, it gets so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to release that, I've had that recently, last probably like year. I went through that where I was like carrying this judgment. And once I released that, how freeing life was to just be able to live as me, not care. And it was just amazing. So like at that point, it's just like, no, I'm not gonna go back. And there is moments where it creeps up, and I have to like, no, like brush that off. I'm like, I just need to do me. Stay true to myself.
Dude, that's amazing. I love that so much. What would you say was kind of the biggest moment for you in being able to, because you said there was kind of a moment where you were like, you know what? No, it's time to start living for me and doing what I love and stop caring about what other people think, you know? Was there like a book you read? Was there somebody that talked to you? Because we've had conversations about this before.
So this is going to be, it's going to be very interesting. So I don't think, so it actually was going bald. And this is,
I remember this. Okay.
Yeah. I don't think people would expect that. Honestly, going bald was one of the best things that has happened to my life. And it's still applicable to somebody that's not going bald, which was like letting go of that judgment. Because I remember, I'm like, dude, I wear a hat all the time. I'm like, and it's just like, I would get like certain haircuts that kind of like help it.
Right.
But it just got to a point where I'm like, dude, this is like going. I just got to let this go. And it was through like, I was in this meditation process, right? And all of a sudden I saw this like cloud of judgment. Well, it was like a cloud. And I was just like, okay, what is this? And I just felt like it was just this judgment feeling. And once I recognized that, I was like, dude, why do I care what people think?
I'm doing this to myself.
Why am I carrying this around? And then I'm like, no, I'm done with this. So the moment I said that, like I just saw the clouds clear, felt this like internal peace. All of a sudden, like that heavy feeling kind of went away. And it was that night, I just looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, buzzed it.
Really?
And then at that point, it was just like freeing and to show up. And it's like, if I didn't have that like experience and then went into it, like as far as just like shaving my head, dude, I know I would have suffered. And I think most people do. They suffer through like going out and the world sees them and they're still carrying that judgment. And I know I would have suffered if I was still like, if I shaved my head and I would have gone out, the comments, whatever, like I know I would have struggled. But because I just didn't care and I went through such a place of like positivity, like, and just strength from it, I like harnessed that in.
Yeah.
And that just like I mean, friends make comments all the time. They throw jokes. And it doesn't faze me. And I think that goes with anything in life. Just like, dude, just let go of the judgment, because you're hindering your growth by holding on to that judgment.
It gets to a point where you have to be okay with you, like fully okay with you. And
so
I don't
these
care.
Are the cards that I'm dealt with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, what else am I going to do?
Yeah, I love it. And I think that there's something truly strong and emotional about looking yourself in the mirror for who you really are. I don't care who you 100%. Are. There had to be in a moment there after you shaved your head that you're like,
oh yeah,
wow, this is me. This is who I am.
Looking in the mirror, took a picture too.
Like,
so
this
I have
is the
that.
day. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm just like, no, this is a day. And it's just like, dude, I just noticed a huge transformation in my own personal growth from that experience.
Just from one moment. Okay. What would be your advice carrying forward? One of my favorite quotes is, it's like, your level of I'm going to totally butcher this, but your level of success rarely exceeds your level of mental growth or spirituality, you know, like your own personal growth.
Yeah.
So from that moment, what do you feel like has been the best help going forward? Is it just continually trusting Vini to go make decisions for your life? Is it books? Is it mentors? You know what I'm saying? I feel like we all have kind of the thing that really gets us going.
Dude, it's a variety of things, you know. It can be from like gathering knowledge, inspiration, just even life experiences. Like the biggest thing for me is also taking any life experience now. I'll do, okay, if it was a win, I'll take that as a win. But if it's like in those situations where most people are like, oh, I failed, lost, all that stuff, I'm like, no, like, what lessons can you take out of that? Because the longer you wait on getting those lessons, you're going to run into those opportunities, not opportunities, but like those lessons again.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're going to go through more struggle. So then at that point, I like whatever happens, no matter how like flat on my face, punch to the face that life gives me,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, what is life trying to teach me right now? What can I take from that?
I love
And
it.
then at that point, that kind of helps me keep going forward. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you don't understand
Right.
in that moment.
In the moment. Mm-hmm.
And that's
I get
when
that.
those moments that you just have to like, you know what? I don't know yet. But through life, if you're having the self-awareness to go through life and ask questions, it's you eventually come across that in the future. You understand that like, oh, okay, now it makes sense.
Right.
But it didn't make sense back then. You just kind of have that,
So
have to have
true.
that faith and just keep going forward, that you start to recognize, I'm like, okay, things now are like connecting the dots.
Okay. I love it. It's kind of trusting the process, trusting yourself.
Yep.
I think another favorite quote of mine is failure is success in progress.
I like
And
that.
just like being okay knowing that there's going to be ups and downs and it's okay. I like how you said sometimes not knowing the next step is the scariest, and saying I don't know is actually so reaffirming to just say it's okay that I don't know right now.
Yep.
Time to move on. Time to just keep going, you know? I love it, dude. One more piece as far as just being a content creator or social media, whatever route you want to go on this, what would be your piece of advice to anybody kind of getting started in like maybe the videography realm and you being able to jump out onto your own? Because that was pretty recent here in the last few months, right? Correct?
What?
Like being able to fully jump out into your own, doing your own thing with video work.
Oh yeah, I mean it's been 2021.
I guess like working for people, but also like doing your own thing.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's been like in the last 2 years, it's been that transition.
Okay.
So it's
Yeah.
been like, I will go out on my own, just fully doing my own thing, my own business. Then there's times that I'll work for like a business, a brand, and I'll still do content creation and still have like side clients.
Yes.
So I've been kind of back and forth through that.
Okay.
But I mean, as far as like somebody like starting out, I think now there's a little bit more pressure just because there's so much content out there.
Right.
So when I was like starting out, influencers was kind of a new thing.
Yep.
So there wasn't this like already like huge, like I think people just compare, right?
Yep.
Don't compare yourself, because a lot of people are comparing these like somebody that's been in it for years.
Right.
And they're just starting out, oh, I'll never get there.
Which happens in any realm
Oh
too.
yeah. Because if I look at like the videos I first started, awful. I like cringe looking at those. So it's like, but I had to start somewhere, right? Start with what you got and just be able to be a student. YouTube has everything you need.
It's
YouTube
so
University.
True.
That's what I do.
It's so true.
So like anytime, even now, like, oh, I like this effect. I want to try this. YouTube.
Yep.
So just be a student of the game, have fun with it, develop your own style. It's like, and it'll come along. I think people are just like get into it and then they think they have a camera and then they can just like, oh, now I'm a content creator, I can charge this much. I'm like, no, you got to go through your learning process, right? It takes time, and I think one of the biggest things even for someone new, and this is like, I would say, get into it, but even learning to establish like what you want to go with it. Because
just like a vision plan.
Yeah, in a sense of like, okay, do I want to just establish my own personal brand? Do I want to grow this where I am making content for other people?
Okay.
Because that is a different thing too. Especially if you're making content for other people, I think, especially now, like there's a little bit of a curve of people are still, I think they understand the value of it, but there's that little bit of like wanting to make an investment in content creation. There is some people that will want this top of the line product, but they want to pay these like great value prices, right? So there's like still like that gap.
Yep.
But then as somebody starting out, it's just making those judgments where I think the biggest thing to someone new is just like, hey, this is a service of mine, but like, I don't know, we used to do trade work.
Yeah.
Something
Absolutely.
of an exchange.
To get some experience.
I mean, there's a time that like I guess you could say free work comes into play,
Right.
but that's like, I mean, for me, it was one of those things that, like how I got into like filming cars, high-end cars. I went to a Cars and Coffee, filmed it, posted it, and just tagged them. And then I got a client off of that,
there.
right? So it wasn't like if people are reaching out to you, like establish that, find people similar skills as you and set those, you know, kind of structure your business around that.
Seek for it.
Yeah.
I love it, dude. I think one of my favorite things about this conversation is like trusting the process, putting yourself out there, knowing that opportunities come along the way, even when you think you're kind of at the bottom.
Yep.
Like we could go into that. I think we could go into manifesting those opportunities and looking for them. That's going to be a completely other episode. I think we could talk about that for a while, but anyways, dude, thank you so much for being here.
Dude,
I appreciate all your
man.
wisdom and your experience, your friendship. We've had some
Likewise.
really great, deep conversations on the table.
Yep.
So yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Have a good day, man.
You too, man. Excited to see you grow with all this.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One day at a time, man.
Absolutely.